Venga, me voy a ver los 10 mejores bosses de todos los tiempos así rapidillo.
Top 10 bosses of all time from
Que es vídeo en inglés, entonces lo vamos a ver así un poco por encima.
any game. I tried to include a lot of genres here, but I did feel like I would end up with a bunch of bosses from like 3 games. Also, if it wasn't painstakingly obvious, there's a fair amount of subjectivity when it comes to making a list like this. So, if you don't see something that you think should be here, just know I considered it, and your design, the environment, sound effects, and the music.
Este es del
2, story. This is the what, and you're wrong. Here's my criteria for judging how good
Este es mi
the
criterio.
boss is. 1. Aesthetics.
La estética.
This is physical design, the environment, sound effects, and the music. 2. Story.
La historia.
This is the what, when, where, and why. Next, gameplay.
El
Probably
gameplay.
the most important. If it's not fun, why bother? Difficulty. I enjoy
dificultad.
difficulty. At least the right kind. If the boss is too easy, cringe. If the boss is too hard, skill issue. This last one is kind of arbitrary, but also extremely important. I'll just call it feeling. That moment right after you beat a boss. What emotions did it important? I'll just call it feeling. That moment right after you beat a boss. What emotions did it leave you with?
¿Qué emociones te deja el boss cuando lo derrotas? Ok. Buenos criterios. Hombre. ¿Qué tienes tú de icono, pirata? Un Black Reaper timidillo. Nuevos vídeos cada vez que termine uno. Ey, pirata timidillo, a ver qué me tiras.
Gamble.
Estoy de acuerdo. El último coloso de Shadow of the Colossus. No, espera, no es el último. Es el tercero.
Number 10. The Third Colossus from Shadow of the Colossus.
Es el tercero.
With the first 2 Colossus in the game,
Ese me marcó mucho a mí, que es el que le pega ahí al suelo en una diana y te tienes que subir por su palo.
you kill them, and while you're doing it, you're thinking, something doesn't seem quite right. Why aren't they fighting back? I'm just killing the giant pacifist creatures. Then, you take a swim to a half-sunken circular arena in the middle of a lake, and
Sí, aparte esto lo jugué yo en un ordenador viejito. O sea, el anterior ordenador al ordenador que tenía antes. Un ordenador que tuve hace 2 ordenadores, imagínate. Y correr el Shadow of the Colossus fue algo infernal, pero de alguna forma logré correrlo en el emulador de Play 2. Y esta pelea me dejó loco.
Shows up, and you think, man, am I really about to kill another helpless creature just because God told me to? Is my girlfriend really worth it? What if that voice in the sky is... And you just got turned into paste while you were thinking about it. While it might not be the most visually interesting Colossus, it remains special because it's a turning point in the story where the Colossus start to
lo ha
fight
elegido
back
porque
and
es
you
el
have to use
primer coloso
counterplay to defeat them, and your
que
job
busca
just got a whole lot
pelear.
harder. Realistically, almost
Porque los
any of the
otros dos,
Colossus could be
los dos primeros, pues los matas así un poco al pedo.
in the spot, because once you start climbing these
Sí,
creatures,
cualquiera de los colosos podía ser prácticamente. Yo hubiera puesto el último de verdad que es una cosa.
and that music starts playing. I could be on the toilet right now and it would still be the most epic moment of my life. The only major downside to this fight, kinda short.
Un poco corta, dijo. Red, totalmente de acuerdo.
Number 9.
De mis favoritas de todos los tiempos, sin duda. Y siempre me da mucho hype llegar a esta pelea.
Red, from Pokémon Heart Gold Soul Silver.
Y lo bien diseñada que está, que cada Pokémon de Red sea uno que puedas utilizar en Pokémon Rojo y Azul, ¿no? Y que prácticamente todos los jugadores tuvieron, que si el Snorlax, el Lapras, el Eevee, los 3 iniciales, el Pikachu. No sé, está bien, muy bien pensada.
First, let me take you on a journey. You're a child who likes gaming in the most boring place on Earth, a bookstore. But this particular bookstore has something you're interested in, a physical guide for that game you've been playing. You pick up your broken at the hinges Nintendo DS, and armed with the Elder Book, you beat the game
de Red
and do
por la
almost
guía.
everything. But you learn of a secret boss on top of a mountain. When you finally make it there,
Se
you're met
enteró
with
de que
the
Red
slickest
estaba ahí por la
guy,
guía.
so cool he's incapable of speech. You challenge this mysterious mutant man, and it turns out he's cheating. But you try 5 more times just to make sure his Pikachu one-shotting your entire team wasn't a fluke. You consult the Rosetta Stone for clues, and
Pero esta es una pelea que yo aprendí a valorar con el tiempo, porque la primera vez que jugué Hergold Si visteis mi equipo cuando lo enseñé, era puro legendario sacado con trucos. Un equipo totalmente aberrante con un Rayquaza, un Arceus, un Celebi, una cosa loca. Entonces, para mí derrotar a Red fue como derrotar a otro tipo más. Venga, un entrenador más. No supe valorar el peso de esta pelea hasta un par de años más tarde.
It turns out he wasn't cheating, you're just underleveled. And you only know how to pick moves that do damage. So, you meticulously map out a team and strategy to flawlessly annihilate this wordless womanizer. Eventually, after many more tries, you do away with your tiny annihilate moves that do damage.
El gringo está usando un Ibai.
So, you
Qué curioso.
meticulously map out a team and strategy to flawlessly annihilate this wordless womanizer. Eventually, after many more tries, you do away with your tight-lipped layman and bask in glorious victory. I went into this mountain expecting to find a legendary Pokemon, and instead, I found a legendary trainer. This game isn't the most
entré buscando un legendario y encontré un entrenador legendario.
balanced, but 1v1ing your own character from the last game you played on top of a mountain while exhaling with the strongest team you've ever had, that's pretty good.
Y aparte la mística que tiene el desaparecer. Y luego lo han quemado, porque al Red lo han vuelto a meter en un montón de juegos, que si Negro 2, que si Let's Go, que si Sol y Luna. Lo han quemado, lo han quemado. Pero es muy bueno.
Number 8, The Edge from Fury.
No
Fury is a game that's just 10 sick boss fights in a row. Most of them
Es un juego que solo son 10 combates contra jefes enfermizos seguidos.
consist of running around in these expansive arenas, dodging projectiles as they fly around while you try to kill the
Gracias,
person
réplica, por la
creating.
raid.
For the most part, they all play out the same way. Dodge and slowly chip away at their health until you can
Pues
get
nuevo
in
emoji de
close
Arcane,
quarters,
una
deal some serious damage, take away a stock, rinse, repeat. And that works just fine until you get to the Edge. The Edge already
Y finalmente llegas al Edge. Este jefe se llama el Edge.
diverts from everything the game has shown you up till now by skipping the initial chasing phase. You start out close to him and have to play very reactionary,
Jefe de parry.
otherwise you'll get put on your ass. Then,
Ya
just when you
está,
think you're
jefe
getting a
de
handle on the
parry.
fight, he switches it up again by taking away an entire axis of movement. Generally speaking, when elements of something are taken away, they tend to get simpler. With this fight, it becomes less complex, but more difficult. In a 3D space, you can dodge in any direction, but here, there's only forwards
Hostia, y te lleva a un... Se pasa de un espacio tridimensional a un bidimensional.
and backwards, and one of those directions is a dude that's going to smack you with his paddle. There's a certain flow state that you enter when engaging with the combat system in this game, and
Sí, bueno,
when you
pero el
get
primer
hit, you can
penitente
lose your
fue más
rhythm
loco.
and end up getting hit
No sé,
again
no he jugado
and
esto.
again. For this fight, that's even more true since this is the only time that the combat switches like this, and you gotta learn it quick or die. All of these elements make the Edge the most memorable boss from this largely overlooked masterpiece.
El Edge.
You have served your purpose. All that awaits you now is the gift of death. The darkness beyond your final phase.
Number 7, Rhulk from Destiny 2.
No he
We're only
jugado
4
Destiny
bosses
2.
in, but if you already
Creo que
thought
nadie
this
ha
list
jugado
was crap,
Destiny
it probably
2.
makes a whole lot more sense now that you've
¿Acaso alguien
realized
jugó
that
Destiny
I
1?
was a Destiny player. I'm reformed now. Even if
Uy,
I
en el chat
perfectly
sí, os
explained
veo, os veo.
everything that makes this boss
Qué guapo,
awesome,
entonces.
you wouldn't understand most of it if you haven't played Destiny before. So instead, I'll explain it poorly. This is Rhulk. He
Estas
earned his
piernas fueron
place
hechas
as a
para
general
patear.
on this burnt Dorito by winning a Fortnite Battle Royale against every other member of his species. He has an obsession
Tuvo que hacer un Battle Royale, tuvo que ganar un Battle Royale contra todos los miembros de su especie.
Dorito by winning a Fortnite Battle Royale against every other member of his species. He has an obsession with shapes and symbols, the designs of which were definitely simple enough that the community was able to come to a conclusion about what the names of all of them were with no trouble whatsoever. His obsession runs to a conclusion about what the names
Ah, bueno, tenía unos símbolos y todo el mundo los descifró.
of all of them were with no trouble whatsoever. His obsession runs to a conclusion about what the names of all of them were with no
Es el WoW de disparos.
trouble whatsoever. His obsession runs so deep that if you try to put everything in the square hole, even if it fits, you die. So, sort them correctly, have some ridiculous APM DPS strats, and while you're at it, don't get kicked. Rhulk does not skip leg day, and you are a squat.
¡Ay!
The feeling of spending all day with 5 other people struggling through encounters where one lapse in concentration in a 20-minute period means resetting to eventually come together and work as a well-oiled machine and overcome that boss is incredible. It's like Bungie was able to distill a chug-jug supply of dopamine that sets every synapse of your brain on fire. In my years of gaming, there are few things that come close to being able to replicate the highs and lows of a Destiny raid encounter. And this one is the king of them all.
Hay que derrotarlo ahí con más gente, ¿no? Es como un jefe de raid. Bahamut.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
De Final Fantasy XVI. No lo he jugado.
Holy shit, this guy put me on my ass. Holy shit.
¡No lo he jugado! Y lo ando atrasando, Lo atraso tanto que va a ser el 17.
Oh yeah, that got him. He's done. Nope, never mind.
Pero no para esto, Nada, me spoileé un poco porque hablo de él en un short que voy a subir en algún momento de esta semana o de la siguiente cuando el editor lo tenga. Pero no para. Veo que la descripción del vídeo es decir holy shit.
Holy shit. Number 5, Ravenbeak from Metroid Dread.
Tampoco jugué.
So for this part, I recorded a whole section where I talked about the lore for like 2 minutes, and then I realized that it was incredibly boring if you don't give a shit about the lore for this franchise. So just note that the story implications heavily impacted this ranking, despite...
Quería contar la historia de Metroid, pero dijo que iba a ser muy aburrido y no lo metió en el vídeo.
Me not really talking about it. Learning that it wasn't Adam that had been guiding you through the whole game and was instead Ravenbeak was a cool plot twist that you would have only figured out if you were paying really close attention. In terms of the actual fight, it's amazing and very difficult. You have to use everything that you've acquired throughout the game to defeat him, and each of the 3 phases tests you differently. The first phase is very grounded, focusing on chasing to stick close, but not too close, while rewarding you with well-timed parries. The second phase takes things to the air, and here Ravenbeak starts to chase you around and gives you a few, oh, that's how I'm supposed to dodge that moments. In phase 3, he decides that wings are cringe and it's back to the ground game, but this time he summons the sun. The end of the fight parallels the beginning of the game, but the difference now is that Samus's previously dormant Metroid DNA is fully awakened. Despite being Samus's father in a way, Ravenbeak values power above all else, so when he saw the potential in Samus, he orchestrated a way to have her Metroid DNA fully awaken so he could exploit her, but this was short-sighted and ultimately his downfall.
Bueno, la final del
Genichiro
Sekiro.
Ashina from Sekiro. For this one, on time, you, in your second meeting, you're able to stand toe-to-toe challenge, and the first...
Este señor yo no sé qué le pasa, a veces lo veo joven, a veces lo veo viejo. Pero bueno, sé que es gracioso porque de repente saca una pistola.
Of hot potato. He serves as a perfect benchmark for how much your...
Es la tercera.
To make the fight fresh while still retaining the feel of the original, one of them being that when you parry his lightning attack back at him,
no es la final, la otra es Ishi, no sé qué.
Playing the
Genichiro es la tercera.
Of hot potato. While he isn't the hardest fight in the game or the one with the most spectacle, he serves as a perfect benchmark for how much your skill improves throughout the game,
o algo así.
and I really like that.
Bueno, lo que sea.
Number 3, Radiance
Radiance.
from Hollow Knight. The
No la
final boss
hice.
of Hollow Knight, only challengeable
Me
after
gustó
defeating the
tampoco
true
Hollow
final
Knight
boss,
que lo dejé con el Hollow Knight. No luché contra Radiance.
Buzzsaws. You hop up there and for the second time,
Es que-
the true final boss, Buzzsaws.
Imagínate hacer eso.
You hop up there and for the second time in the entire game, you, the player, decide to challenge this boss on your own terms and think, wait, where are they? Am I going to fight the sun? Yes, you are.
Vas
The
a
base
pelear
game
con el
version
sol,
isn't
sí.
the most difficult. The real challenge comes with absolute radiance in the DLC, and this is the version of the boss that I love. They crank up the speed, the presentation is spectacular.
¿Qué dijeron?
The real challenge comes with absolute radiance in the DLC, and
Radiance absoluto. O sea que es
this is the version of the boss
una versión aún más
that
difícil.
I love. They crank up the speed, the presentation is spectacular, the music is amazing, you die in one hit. While you might have to go relatively deep into the lore to completely understand the implications of this fight, once you do, it's incredibly rewarding. Some people will probably think I'm stupid for not putting Pure Vessel or Nightmare King Grim here, but
Está diciendo que algunas personas preferirían, seguro que lo critican y preferirían que metiera al Grim o al Hollow Knight, ¿no? Bueno, el recipiente puro.
I personally just didn't enjoy them as much as Radiance. The aesthetics are incredible, but I actually prefer regular Grimm's boss music if I'm gonna nitpick, which I kind of have to do for a list that's this broad. Completing Absolute Radiance hit list I kind of have to do for a regular Grimm's boss music if I'm gonna nitpick, which I kind of have to do for a list that's this broad. Completing Absolute Radiance hit list
Para llegar al Absolute Radiance tienes que pelear contra todos los bosses del juego de corrido y la primera. Así de hijo de puta. Uf.
is literally the only thing I have left to do in the entire game. Radiance hit list is literally the only for a list that's this broad. Completing Absolute Radiance hit list is literally the only thing I have left to do in the entire game.
No lo hizo, no lo logró.
And I've resigned myself to the fact that I will eventually do it when Silksong gets
Lo haré cuando salga Silksong.
a release date. So I'll probably never do it.
Así que probablemente nunca lo haré. O sea, no la derrotó.
When Silksong gets a release date. So I'll probably never do it.
Ludwig.
Number 2, Ludwig from Bloodborne. Bloodborne was the first
Yo diciendo, guau, qué peleaza la de Ludwig. Mi gameplay de Ludwig. Yo yendo a la arena de batalla con 3 invocaciones.
Number 2, Ludwig from Bloodborne.
Que era el hermano Madaras. No me acuerdo de los otros dos, pero fui ahí con 3. Harriet. Y otro que andaba por ahí.
Bloodborne was the first From Software game that I played, so my skill when it comes to these types of games was at its lowest during
El hermano Madaras, Walter y Henry.
my
Eso.
Bloodborne playthrough. And that might have contributed to the inordinate difficulties I had when fighting this boss for the first time. That, or I was just trying to digest exactly what the hell I was looking at. It's disgusting. Its scream makes the hair on your arms stand on their ends. Its movements are savage and make it seem like it's only capable of shredding things apart. It's a beast, unsightly,
Dios.
grotesque, and then it's not. He used to be a man, but was met with a terrible fate. The fight changes, no longer a hunter fighting a beast, but a hunter fighting a noble knight. He stands on his hind legs now in
Ay, la
a
de
dueling
siempre, está de
position,
pie.
no longer attacking with claws,
Que deja de
instead
ser una
only
bestia
using
para
his
pelear
one-light
como humano.
greatsword. It completely recontextualizes what you thought you knew.
Dark, como me gustó Bloodborne, intenté jugar de nuevo Dark Souls 1 y lo desinstalé a los 20 minutos. Literalmente injugable.
About the enemy. He isn't just some beast. He was a human and is still capable of holding on to his ideals even after becoming what he is now. Potentially the most memorable Phase 2 transition of a boss in any game.
Potencialmente la transición a la fase 2 más memorable de algún jefe en cualquier juego.
The fight is super fast, the visuals are immaculate, and he has a hauntingly beautiful boss theme, if you can hear it over the screaming.
Fatalis de Monster Hunter o algo así.
Time to fight history.
Number 1, Fatalis from Monster Hunter World.
No conozco.
Monster Hunter is a game series full of crazy-looking creatures. Lightning,
Mi hermano le tenía alto hype al Demon Souls y ya lo había dropeado después de volver a la escuela.
Wolf, Mountain, Super Saiyan Monkey, Really Big Snake, Volcano, Manticore who took the red pill, Manticore who took the blue pill. In a game filled with outrageous but meticulously designed monsters,
Pensar que Bloodborne fue mi primer Souls y fui al DLC por error antes de matar a Roma, así que me bajé a Ludwig como a nivel 30 después de casi un mes. Dios mío.
Fatalis's encounter and design stand out because of their simplicity. With a monster like Alatreon, the penultimate monster, you first have to bring a weapon of the correct element, which rotates. Then you have to meet the elemental damage threshold before his judgment.
No me voy a reír de ti porque cuando fui a Japón, fui a casa de Tutis, que tenía una casa allí, y literalmente pasamos un día intentando derrotar a Ludwig. Porque fuimos súper rápido, o sea, fuimos a hacer el DLC, pues creo que después de derrotar al renacido prácticamente, y fuimos a por Ludwig y no dimos.
Element, which rotates. Then you have to meet the elemental damage threshold before his judgment attack to lower the damage output. Then, while he's in dragon mode, you have to break his horn, or he'll rotate through the elements to become immune to your elemental weapon damage, meaning that you can no longer lower the damage of his judgment attack, meaning you die. You get that? Me neither. In contrast, Fatalis is complex only in that he hits hard. Very hard. No special mechanics, no crazy techniques, just you and the king, one-on-one in a dance to the death. Well, 1-on-1.5. Almost all the monsters in the game have designs that are rooted in reality. You look at these creatures and see the way that parts of them work and can imagine how those would be helpful in the environments that they supposedly live in. Fatalis is the exception to this rule, his breath being hot enough to melt through anything. What kind of world would force a creature to evolve in a way that they would need fire breath hot enough to melt through anything?
Se funde
A
todo
human
este tío.
world. In a world where humans have hunters to hunt monsters, Fatalis is a hunter of humans.
Fatalis
The
es un
arena in
cazador
which
de
the fight takes
humanos.
place, the ruined Castle Shrade, is all that remains of an entire nation of
O
people.
sea, claro, en este juego tú te encuentras a monstruos que están en la naturaleza y claro, pues se han adaptado a la naturaleza en la que viven. Pues este dragón está en un castillo y se adaptó a pelear con humanos.
That Fatalis wiped out just because he despised them. It wasn't self-defense or territorialism, it was mass indiscriminate slaughter.
Ah, y ni siquiera lo ha hecho para protegerse, lo hace porque los odia. A los humanos.
Some monsters divert from natural evolution and become something completely different so they can survive. Fatalis diverted from natural evolution and became something completely different so he could destroy. The fight is one of the most fun in the entire series. It's super punishing in all of the right ways, and the soundtrack makes it feel like you are the hero in the final confrontation with an unstoppable evil.
Y hay dos Fatalis más. Y tampoco la mística se ha ido más.
And that's it. That's the list. From Software has probably created enough memorable bosses to take every slot.
Buena lista. Quizás demasiado... O sea, quiero decir, tenía 10 puestos y como que gastó... Bueno, gastó 3 en cosas de Soulsborne. No, realmente fue bastante variado, ¿eh? Sí. Sí, conté Hollow Knight también, pero es diferente. No, buena lista, buena lista. Qué bueno que no puso la pelea con Dient, la ponen en todos lados. En el lore de Monster Hunter, los humanos eran seres super futuristas, pero fue ese dragón quien los devolvió al medievo. Santa madre de Dios. Vaya bicho.